It's an average day at work. You're standing in the hallway interacting with a patient when all of a sudden he attacks you. You're being struck, you're knocked through a doorway, and then he continues his vicious, violent assault. What would you do? We interview as many people as we possibly can who've been victimized by violence on the job in healthcare. Unfortunately, it's still such a dirty little secret that much of what we have to go on is based upon maybe a video that we see and then talking to people that were involved in similar situations. On average, it usually takes me a year or two to get someone to open up enough to tell me their story because of the way they've either been shamed at work, they believe they're going to get in trouble, they think that HIPAA's involved. So I mean, all these other things that go on that have nothing to do with the truth, it keeps people from discussing or talking about the subject. Because so many in healthcare don't really think this kind of thing goes on or it's that serious, or we want to say things like, well, we have security for in-hospital. We have, panic buttons that we can push. We have, locked doors, security cameras, and signage. So all those things are mechanical. And then we have other people, which would be, like a security guard or other staff members, bystanders, anybody that might come to our aid. Here's the problem. There is a critical time frame from the moment the assault or the attack begins and somebody else shows up. Watch this video and we're going to discuss it after the fact. So you could see the interaction, and then you could see the violent assault, and then look how long it was before someone showed up. What would you do? You're being attacked. In that very moment, what would you do? Panic buttons, wonderful. Security, wonderful. Locked doors, wonderful. Video cameras for helping with prosecution after the fact, wonderful. From the moment it occurs, and it could be 1 second, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, or a minute, what all goes on from the moment the violent attack begins until someone else shows up to help us out. The most important element of escaping a violent encounter is the provider themselves. What do you do in that moment? So what I'd like for you to do to show you about mental preparation is to break down that video again and say, what would I do if that were me? That's how you do mental prep. Where would your hands be? What is the spacing? What was the interaction going on? While security's great, if we don't have something between the time the incident occurs and someone shows up to help us out, there's really little ways for you to escape that violent encounter. So what we want to do is use real life incidents, not what somebody said or what somebody thinks might happen, but let's talk about real videos. We got real videos, we talk to real people, and we want to find out what goes on in our unique environment of healthcare when it comes to escaping a violent encounter. So to do mental prep, take this video and go, what would I do if that were me? The next piece, what would be reasonable? Remember, reasonable is an important word in the use of self-defense. People have been hemmed up because they just do whatever it takes to go home without applying the most important word, which is reasonable actions in that moment. Because again, if I carried a machete raised above my shoulder and the first person that mouthed off to me, I lobbed their head off, well, obviously I did whatever it took for me to go home, but I'm not going to win that important case. And we're going to talk about that in an upcoming episode of Chronicles of a Culture Changer. I'm Teitsort. Thanks for watching this episode of Chronicles of a Culture Changer. If you believe in our message, please let others know we exist.